Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat with Tanya Lightborn. It's another exciting conversation with my guest, Dr. Latazia Stuart. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. Latazia is affectionately referred to as Dr. Taz. So, from this point on, in this conversation, that is what we're going to refer to her as. So, welcome to Let's Chat with Tanya Lightborn, Dr. Taz. I'm super excited to have you.
I am super excited to be here.
Yes, because do you remember the first time we talked?
I do. I actually do. A friend of mine was, I guess she's a follower of
Yeah.
Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
She's all things Tanya. And I had just completed my book tour in the Bahamas, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "Hey, girl, listen, you need to get on Tanya's show. I need to see you on that platform." So I was like, "Who is Tanya?" And then when I found you, it was like, okay, the rest is history.
Yeah, because we spoke for like an hour and a half.
I think that was almost 2 hours our first
I
conversation.
I think so. I think so. Well into the night, like the
Wow.
kids done gone to bed,
Yes, it was late.
and yeah, and you were abroad. So for
Yes,
anyone watching, Dr. Taz is Bahamian, but
yes,
she lives
yeah.
abroad.
Yeah.
So Dr. Taz is an author. She's a super mom to three miracles, and she's an infertility and pregnancy loss advocate and coach. So once again, I'd love to welcome you. I want to welcome you to Let's Chat with Tanya Lightborn, to usher in this month of April, and we refer to this month as National Infertility Awareness Month. So I'm super
Mhm,
excited to have you
mhm,
for
mhm.
that reason alone, because this is definitely one of those taboo topics.
It is a taboo of taboo of taboos. I mean, to the point really where even myself, prior to last year, when I came out with my book, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't speak the word infertility. And people are like, what? What you mean you
Yeah,
can't say the word infertility? But
yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh
taboo.
my. And I feel like I've had about two to three guests bring awareness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And every time this topic surfaces, people tune in and they share the
Mhm,
episodes because it's so powerful. And
mhm.
the common denominator amongst any others is that you're not alone, and you're not the only one going through it, and there is a community or communities that are around to help you.
Yeah. Tanya, as I'm thinking, as you're saying that, when I was experiencing my challenges, when I first came to realize that I was struggling with infertility, I didn't hear anybody else talking about it. It wasn't in my church community, the Bahamas, on TV, nowhere anybody was saying anything. So yeah, I felt very isolated in, my challenges. And I think that lends itself to the stigma and the embarrassment,
Yeah,
because you're seeing others having kids and nobody's talking about it. Then it's like, okay, well, what's wrong with me?
right.
And so yeah, it lends itself to that taboo.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm,
So we're going to just dive right in because I want you to share a bit of your story with our viewers.
mhm, mhm. Oh,
What part of your
it's almost,
story?
it's almost like, where do you begin, right? But I'll start from the beginning. I'll start from the
Yeah.
beginning. Let me start with the love of my life. My love, Mr. Dwayne Stewart, my high school sweetheart. I wouldn't say we were necessarily dating in high school, but
Yeah.
we became really good friends while we were in high school.
Hmm.
I have a girlfriend in the Bahamas. She likes to take credit for our relationship, so I'll give her a shout out to Neil, because she was like, "Girl, you need to be this guy."
Oh, wow.
And our relationship evolved, where even when I went away to school, we kept in contact with each other,
Hmm.
and we had a long distance relationship for 9 years,
Wow.
almost
But
9 years. But here we are now,
yeah.
married. We're married now 22 years, and we have three little people. But
Hmm.
at the beginning of our marriage, if somebody had told us, us young 20s, vibrant young people, that we were going to have challenges having kids,
Yeah.
I'd be like, what you talking about?
Right.
But I think it was, I remember specifically the year when we were like, okay, this is the year we're going to have our kids.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of every year, we would take out our notebook and we'd write out our plans of things that we wanted to, accomplish that year. And I remember specifically writing, we're going to go to Europe. We're going to get pregnant. We're going to have a baby announcement. We're going to, like I laid out this timeline of all these things that were going to happen this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that year, none of it was, the happening wasn't happening.
Wow.
Okay.
Life was lifing.
Not in the way that I wanted, but it was. And
Right.
then it was like, okay, well, let's get the ovulation kits. Let's try that. And even though we were timing things with the kids, it still wasn't happening. So it was like, okay, well, what's going on here? And then I really got into my own head about, what I was struggling with. Eventually I did go to the doctor, and, they did several tests, workup for myself and my husband. And they were like, okay, well, you're going to need to get IVF. I'm like, nope, not me. I'm in my 20s still. And clearly everybody in their 20s is able to have a kid. That's
Right.
that's what I'm saying, right? And no, I was like, the devil is a liar. No way. That's not what God has for me. But little did I realize, as I continued on this journey, fertility treatment has nothing to do with your faith. Let me put a pin right there.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your faith, because God has truly given man wisdom as it relates to how to help people with medical conditions. And we don't go around here when somebody has a broken leg saying, oh, you know what, you don't need orthopedic treatment because God says wait, and that leg is going to heal itself.
Right.
Right? We don't do that. Or when an individual has cancer, like, no, you don't need to go through chemotherapy, especially if they're at an acute stage, that your faith is gonna heal you. And I'm not saying that your faith doesn't play a role, but God also says faith without works is dead.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Faith without works is dead. So yes, but at the beginning stage, that that was an area of my life I struggled with in
Yeah.
trying to align the two as it relates to my faith and my fertility.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So, I know we chat ahead of we have a conversation,
Mhm.
ahead of our episodes, and one of your core or your pillars or your beliefs is that we should have fertility in all areas of our lives. In particular, so we want the baby, we want the family. Things are not happening as swiftly as we would like, but as a fertility coach, one of the things that you believe is that you should have fertility in all areas of your lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For individuals that are struggling with infertility,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we get so caught up in the pain and the suffering of not being one to have kids on what we consider our timeline, right? And let
Yeah.
me start by saying also that God's time is so much better than ours, even though we're not able to see it when we're in the midst of it. But
Mm-hmm.
while you're going through it, it's important to really still look at other areas of your life that God is blessing you in,
Mm-hmm.
and find ways to truly have good fertility in those areas, whether it's your finances, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your relationship with others.
Mm-hmm.
Those are areas that if God is blessing you in it, you want to be thriving in those aspects while you're in the wait. While you're in the wait. And one of the things I talk about in my book that I had to come to a realization was that, you know what, there were so many areas in my life that was working well. And I had to acknowledge and accept, God, thank you. Thank you for that. And being happy and content in those areas of my life did not minimize the pain and the struggles and the frustrations that I was having with my fertility. it didn't take away from that, because sometimes believe that, oh well, if this area of my life is not working, how can I be happy or celebrate in this area of my life? No, the two can't coexist.
Wow,
You
wow.
can thrive in one area and be challenged in another.
Yeah, that's something that's a life lesson, eh?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
want to say not just as it relates to fertility, and of course, because we're talking about this, it makes sense now that you say it, because and it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy at all. I can't imagine not being able to. I'm a woman and I want to give my husband or my partner a baby.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'm designed to do, I cannot do it. And because I cannot do it at the moment, listen,
Mm.
it's over. I'm done. I'm sad. I go into depression. Nothing's going well. It's just it's hard. And so I believe that is something, I feel like that you should absolutely encourage, and that you should teach, especially as it comes to infertility, but more importantly, just as a rule of life.
Yeah. One of the things that, and I started to state the quote that I actually have in my book, because this was a realization that God brought me to, was
Mm-hmm.
that I had to say, God, if you don't bless me any more than you have blessed me already, I am blessed more than enough.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't bless me, God, any more than you have blessed me already, I am truly blessed more than enough. And like I say, that didn't take away from me not still wanting or desiring to have a child,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to acknowledge that God truly had blessed me to this
Yeah.
point in my relationship with my husband, my career, and with a loving family.
Yeah. So we're going to get to a few other things. But one of the things I want to ask you is, what did you do? So let's say from the time you got married to the first
Mhm,
child, to your
mhm,
first
mhm,
child,
mhm.
because we know you have three miracles. What would you say you did while waiting?
So one of the things that I eventually did after trying and trying and trying and failing on
Yeah.
IVF treatments, because we did eventually move forward with having IVF.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we did have failed cycles. I can
Mm-hmm.
remember the first cycle that I have, and I go a little bit more in detail into this, but
Mm-hmm.
I had hyperovarian stimulation.
Okay.
So what that is that my ovaries were overstimulated at the beginning.
Okay.
And I remember I even ended up in the emergency room, because I remember I was sitting at my desk at work and I was like, what is this pain? When you're going through IVF, they stimulate your ovaries. And so you're producing more eggs,
Yeah.
right? And so you're going to have that fullness effect. But then I started to have pain, and I'm like, this pain is getting a little intense. What's going on here? And it did intensify to the point where I felt the need to go to the emergency room. And I'll tell you, so here's how the enemy works. That's when my faith started to mess with me again. And I was like, oh Lord, is this a consequence of me going down a path that you didn't want me to go on to begin with? Like, here I am now in the emergency room, getting penalized for, making the decision to do this. I mean, I was like, my
It
brain
sounds
was
like
just,
you were beating yourself up
it was,
and
I
just
was.
very anxious.
Very much so. And the thing is, not having any of my girlfriends to talk to about this, because again, this was a secret up to last year. None of
Wow.
my close friends or my family was even aware of.
Yeah.
Again, back to taboo, right? And
Yeah.
so it was just me, my husband, and the doctors dealing with this. Not even my mom up to that point knew what was going on with me.
Yeah. So you encourage women to just go on with life while trying. Live your life,
Live your life.
go
Live
out
your
with your
life. Live
friends,
your life.
obviously pray about what's happening
Mhm.
with you and your body, the decisions that you're going to make as it relates to trying to conceive, but also still trying to have some quality of life, or still maintaining some quality of life, for sure.
Yes, yes, because one of the things that my husband and I did do, after a few failed attempts and realizing, like we're not making any headway. We're talking about babies all the time.
Yeah.
We were coming up on our 10th wedding anniversary,
Ah,
and we'd always talked about going to Europe. And it was like, okay, are we going to continue like with the cycle and trying right now, or do we going to take a break? And he's like, baby, let's take a break. Let's take a break. And I'll tell you, in the moment, I was like, I don't want to take a break. I want to have children. Like, what you doing? What you talking about?
Right?
But we gotta thank God for having a sound, spouse.
Yeah.
And he was like, we're gonna take a break and we're going to, just enjoy
Travel.
this season of our life and travel. And
Yeah.
we did, and it was it was a thing that we really needed in our relationship. And I think also for the I don't want to say, how do I say, the opening of a new season in our
Yeah.
life, you know?
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, you just mentioned traveling to Europe, and I'm already zoned out. I'm already there.
Girl, listen. And that trip, if
Yeah.
you have never done a Mediterranean cruise,
Hmm.
y'all better go book a ticket, okay? I know cruises are back open.
Yeah.
Go and do that one. It was so amazing. And he's into
Oh.
architecture and stuff like that. So we went into Barcelona. We spent a few days there,
Oh,
seeing
wow.
the amazing architect there. And then, went on to Rome and other places. It was fabulous. It really
Yeah.
was. And I'm so glad that we took a break from everything that we were doing centered around our
Right.
fertility treatments to enjoy that time in our life.
What's interesting is nobody tells you that. It's
Mhm,
okay. I can't have kids. I'm having issues conceiving, and so
mhm,
that's it.
mhm,
I'm sad. I'm depressed. I'm not gonna tell anybody about it. This is just the worst
mhm,
thing ever, and I'm
mhm,
not gonna be happy anymore. And I'm not gonna talk to my partner about it. I'm
mhm,
just
mhm.
gonna, I'm just gonna, trying to
Be-
try to deal with it myself. When in fact, you really can't. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you can't deal with it.
Tanya, I'll tell you, one of the things, especially like what I try to do on my social media page, is I try to highlight the beauty that life still brings to other individuals. Because sometimes folks, they're in such despair, they can't see hope for anything else.
Mhm.
And I was able to experience that on my journey. And I do believe that it helped with my faith. So definitely, and that's why I go into that with coaching as well. In my coaching, like I let folks know these are things you want to work on in other areas of your life alongside your fertility.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
simultaneously,
Yeah. Hmm.
let's chat a little bit about women struggling with infertility and the prevalence of it, because I feel like this episode is going to free someone, is going to free people, but at the very least it'll free one person,
Yeah.
because again, you're a prime example. You were struggling with it. You didn't talk about it until you had your three kids, and this is
Hmm.
obviously years later.
Hmm.
So let's chat a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I think it's important for folks to realize, like you said, it wasn't like I had my kids and then I was like, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
here's what I'm able to, share with you about infertility. No, my
You went
baby is
through it.
my daughter just turned 10 last year.
Woo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And prior to last year, my sister cuz, like my sister cuz who knows everything about me, she didn't know. One of my best friends, after she read my book, I remember her sending me a long WhatsApp message, like apologizing, like for not being there. And I had to tell her, I understand part of this was me not sharing because, again, the perceptions of what others are going to think.
Yeah.
But as it relates to the prevalence of individuals who are going through this, according to the World Health Organization, who actually released a report last week, last week,
Mm-hmm.
1 in 6 women are struggling with infertility globally.
Wow.
1 in 6.
Wow.
I
That's
was
crazy.
previously I was previously quoting the statistics of 1 in 8 here in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now we're talking about, let's look at the world.
Yeah.
1 in 6. One in
That is
six.
amazing.
One in
One
six.
in six. And
One in
would you
six.
say, because I've seen, because this topic has kind of sparked
Mm-hmm.
so much. I guess it's been so prevalent in my conversations over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say it's more prevalent in Black women? There are
So,
more Black women struggling.
there isn't specific data as it relates to that, but I'll
Okay.
share with you when
Mm-hmm.
I actually was back home in the Bahamas sharing my story, the number of individuals that sent me a DM,
Yeah.
known individuals,
Yeah.
okay, in society.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is like it's almost like like we say an expression we use. It's almost like it's running rampant.
Yeah. And
It really is.
do you
And
think?
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, no, you go.
No, I was going to share that it ranges a spectrum of different issues.
Mm-hmm.
So one we know that's very common is fibroids.
Fibroids. Yeah.
That has a big issue as it relates to woman fertility.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first things that I encountered when I finally did become pregnant. And I experienced a pregnancy loss. The doctors were saying it could be related to your fibroids,
Okay.
right?
So you
But
you knew that you had fibroids.
not until actually after I became pregnant.
Ah. Okay. Okay.
Or, they may have mentioned it, but it didn't seem like it was an issue per
Okay.
se.
Okay.
And again, the knowledge thing and self-advocacy thing right now, you just got to be that for yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
I think if I knew a lot more about fibroids and the impact that it has on a pregnancy, I probably may have taken a different course of treatment
Okay.
before proceeding with my fertility treatment. But life presents its lessons, and it's
Yeah.
lessons that I can now share with others to help them on their journey. But
Yeah.
there's scar tissue that I also dealt with in my relationship, in my fertility treatment. I had to,
Mm-hmm.
early in my marriage, actually my first year of marriage, I actually had cysts that were removed. And while the doctor had told me at that time that, this shouldn't impact my fertility, but,
Mm-hmm.
don't take forever to don't take forever to have kids, it apparently did have an issue because I developed a lot of scarring internally.
Oh.
And for women who may have had some type of abdominal surgery, that could be a barrier and they don't even know until they're trying to have kids. Then there's PCOS. That's another one that's so
Oh,
prevalent.
I've heard that. I've
That
heard
that
that is
that
very prevalent. Yeah.
that. So there's so many issues that impact fertility in a woman
Yeah.
that we really have to break the silence, break the
Mm-hmm.
taboo around this, have more conversations like this
Mm-hmm.
so that individuals can get the help, get the coaching, get the support, get the treatment that they need to overcome these barriers. And then let's not talk about insurance, because that's a whole nother ball of wax. And I'm coming for that one. I can promise you I'm coming for that one, Tanya,
Yeah.
because I recently learned that there are some women in the Bahamas who have used fertility treatment. And because they use fertility treatment in their ability, to conceive, their pregnancy is not covered. And I'm like, say what now? So that's one. Trust me, I plan to sit down with some of our legislators in the Bahamas in the very near future to have a conversation around that, because we're talking, why are we setting barriers to block
Yeah.
individuals from having a family?
I mean, like, this is what you're paying for,
Oh,
and it ain't cheap. So, but that's another kettle of fish.
we can have that on another episode.
Yeah. Yeah. So, increasing awareness about this topic during Infertility Month. What I'm sure there have been. I mean, just so many strides in increasing awareness. I mean, the fact that there is a month dedicated to this topic, I feel is just leaps and bounds from where it used to be. Still
Yeah.
not where we want it to be, but from everybody being hush hush about it to now, the I guess the persons that are in these communities, persons like yourself who are now taking charge and leading initiatives based around this topic. How would you say awareness being brought to the forefront, to the Black community, whether it's Black America or to the Bahamas? Like, how is that? What does that look like nowadays?
So it is, I think, still a very individualized thing in the Bahamas. You know, I had not realized until somebody brought it to my attention that my book was the first one written by a Bahamian on this
Oh
topic.
yeah, absolutely.
It was the first one. They're like, you're first out of the gate here in the Bahamas with, with this issue. Well, I'm like, I'm here and I'm going to blow the top off now because there
Absolutely.
are so many in our community
Yeah.
that are struggling with that. And not just the Bahamas. I mean, I've gotten contact from individuals in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. So in the Caribbean in particular, where it's still a very hush hush kind of topic, it's one where not many individuals know where to get help and resources. Uh, yeah, I'm here to continue pushing that awareness. And
Yeah.
I have some additional plans in place as time goes on to
Mhm.
help individuals in that area. As it relates to here in America, there is a nonprofit infertility organization called Resolve. They're an organization that I'm actually volunteering with this month. They have National Infertility Awareness Week. And so during that week on April 25th, myself and other individuals around the country will be volunteering to on Advocacy Day and advocating legislators regarding certain things and letting them know about our stories, letting
Okay.
them know what our stories are so that the conversation can continue, more resources can be made available, and help can be given to individuals that really need it with
Right.
this issue.
Have you heard about any? I mean, I'm sure there are, but during Infertility Week in the Bahamas, have you been in touch with anybody who, or any organizations who say to you, okay, well, this is what we're doing, or are you aware of any initiatives
No,
that have been happening?
they're none. They're none. They're none. They're none at this time.
Yeah.
However, I do have some initial conversations with one of our local medical facilities there that were looking to possibly do something, probably something like this that
Okay.
will probably come out later on. So
Yeah.
there's conversations being had.
So basically, our women are reliant upon. I mean, I guess with anything similar to cancer or any illness
Hmm.
or condition, I assume that they lean more towards the American National Infertility Week or month, etc., and their initiatives, and kind of follow along and see what they're doing. They can get information. I'm sure
Yes.
I've heard that there are lots of communities, whether it's on social media or not, but communities where people, or virtual communities where people can just tap in. Hey, I
Mhm.
want to be a part of it, or they sign up for
Mhm.
it, or they join, you know, they join a community under a website. And so they do things like that so that they can too share their stories and know that they are not alone.
Yeah. So one of the things that like I said, what do women do in the
Mhm.
Bahamas, right, that are struggling with this? And I'd say definitely go to your doctor, and you don't need to wait to go. Like, there are some really amazing doctors in the Bahamas. One who I actually did a show with Guardian Talk Radio, Dr. Inga
Mhm.
Pratt. They're at Advanced Maternal Field Center. They're a great team of medical professionals. So if you're struggling, they can definitely provide them with guidance and wisdom as to, okay, this is a path that you probably want to consider, whether they're referring them to a facility here in the US to continue their fertility treatment. Or I know that they also refer to, there's a fertility treatment center in Barbados as
Right.
well
I've heard about that one.
that many individuals go to. I know, and actually I have a show, Fertility Fridays live at 5 that I'm
Okay.
doing in April. And one of the individuals that I'm interviewing, she had travel IVF. So she's here in the US, but she did a
Okay.
fertility treatment in Barbados.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So we talked about fertility options for young women. Um, that's not something that may be something we discourage here because we don't want our young women to have, we don't want them to have babies ahead of when they should
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
However, um, we're at this point because you just never know. There are nowadays, I find the younger women, they want the career, they want the car, they want their house before they settle down. And so by the time they settle down, they're looking at 35. And it's like, okay, your biological clock is ticking. You're considered high risk. I remember when I was 27, I had my first daughter when I was 27. And in later years, I was told that that was late to have a first child. And I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, she wasn't even planned. So there's that. But there's
She pop up in your life and you telling me I late?
something. I'm like, 27 is late? But then I had my second when I was 38 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a different story. But at 27, I'll use myself as an example. I wasn't thinking about babies. I was thinking career, similar house, car. I'm sure I already had about 2 cars by then.
Mm-hmm.
But I was, tunnel focused on what what the rest of my life was going to look like, and trying to curate that or carve that out and just move forward full steam ahead. But now we need to have the conversations with younger women, like, okay, is it called a fertility plan? Is that what it's called?
So yes, and individuals, when they do like go with me through coaching, I do help them to develop a fertility plan. But I wanted to rewind a little bit to how you were saying folks were telling you were late to have a kid at 27. Like we have this habit of getting into everybody's womb about when they supposed to have children or when they supposed to get married. Like people leave the people womb leave their womb alone, please. Please, can we do that?
Say it again.
Leave the people womb alone.
I love it.
Their womb is none of your business. But we are like, I mean, when my husband first got married, I remember folks. So when y'all having the first kid and y'all having the first child, we just trying to
just got married.
We just get married. Y'all don't wait too long now. I think I'm gonna put a story out on that. I'm gonna put a reel on that on social media. Y'all don't wait too long. Huh? My husband was still in school at the time. I was just starting my career. Like, we want to live life a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong. When we decided to have kids, and it wasn't an age issue.
Yes.
But yes, we did encounter challenges. Yeah. But when you do that, you don't know what people are struggling with, and or if they are even trying.
Or they're not even, or none of the above. They're not struggling, and it's not for lack of. They're just living. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. There is nothing wrong with that. So, like I said, leave the people womb alone.
Amen
please,
and amen.
Please. Okay. Now, as it relates to what was your question now? Because I you said that, I was like, what? No, let's tell the people, leave the people business alone.
I was talking about a fertility plan for younger women, because again, they're trying to achieve so many things. They're trying to line up all these ducks, so when they do meet the right fella, they're ready, right? So I could put my 5 cents with your 5 cents, or my assets with yours, and we'll build this together. I don't know, whatever this thing is we're building together. However, by the time they are ready to have kids, they were or ready to settle down, and for the average, I guess for the average young lady, when she's ready to get married, she's knocking on 30 or 35, and by then she may or may not be considered high risk, and then you don't know what challenges lie ahead.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I have a cousin. She just turned 30. She living her life.
Yeah.
She's enjoying life, and I'm excited for her to enjoy her life. Okay. Yeah. But one of the things I'm telling her to be mindful of, listen, I don't want you to go rushing into no relationship with any guy because you're looking at the clock and saying, oh my goodness, I'm getting old. I'm getting old, and I want to have a kid.
Yeah.
Freeze your eggs.
And And what does that mean, or what does that look like
Exactly.
for the 28-year-old
Hmm.
who is not thinking
Hmm.
about having a baby? She's still going to the movies. She still wants to travel. She
Yes.
still wants to work. She
Yes.
wants to possibly have a side hustle
Yes.
before build her empire
Yeah.
before she decides to settle down, one, and then two, have a child.
Have child. Yes. Yes. The thing is, we are born with the number of eggs that we're going to have for life.
Okay.
And over time, they diminish in quality, they can diminish in count.
Okay.
And there are some individuals who actually have diminished, what they call diminished ovarian syndrome, or diminished ovarian reserve, where they actually have lesser eggs than the average woman.
Okay.
And some of these people don't even come to realize until they start having kids. So there are certain tests that you can actually ask your doctor to
Mm-hmm.
do for you if
Okay.
you're in your 20s, so that you can actually even know what your egg count is.
That's
You can
amazing.
you can get an idea of what that looks like, and
Yeah.
then you can develop a plan accordingly. But as it relates to freezing your eggs, you can go, and the cost, there are some clinics that it's really a nominal thing you can do. You can put those babies on ice until you're ready. That way,
Wow.
when you do get into a relationship and you're not really looking at the clock, you have really good quality eggs
Okay.
that you
Okay.
can use to have, your pregnancy and to conceive later on.
Boy, that is the more you know.
The more you know,
I wonder
the
if
more you know. And knowledge is
knowledge
half.
is power. Oh my
Knowledge
goodness.
is so powerful, so
Because
powerful. And
ignorance is
empower
bliss.
we have to empower our young women. We have to
Yeah,
empower our young women,
for
you know,
sure.
because so many of them, like you say, there's that to go, okay, to become a doctor, a medical doctor, and then to specialize. Do you know how many years that involves in terms of school? And for a young woman that's trying to figure out, okay, if I'm going to go to school for all these years and
Yeah.
I do want to have a family, like, how
Mhm.
does that come into play? Like, how does
That's
that
at
work?
least what, 15, 20 years?
It can be a while.
Is it? Yeah, it's a
It,
while.
it, it can be a
Wow.
while,
Yeah.
and unless you're having a partner who's probably there with you along the way, you
Yeah.
may be waiting, you may not be the one that's looking at a relationship.
Yeah. I think there's also too that, that stigma, or that mothers wanting to stay away from just having that conversation with their unmarried daughters,
Mhm.
because I don't know, I have this conversation with my Layla, then she's gonna want to play around with having babies, and God
Mhm.
forbid, because we're in a Christian society and
I know.
there's no kids out of wedlock, and all the all the
All of
all the
things.
things that come along with that. So, but I totally, I can appreciate having that conversation and
Mhm.
encouraging my daughter to have that conversation with
Yeah,
her doctor, or her,
yeah.
gynecologist, OBGYN, should she decide, what, career first, house, or just, hey, I want to work abroad, I don't want to come
Mhm.
back home.
Correct.
Whatever you decide, if having a family is not in your immediate plan, then you might want to consult your
But-
OBGYN about
Correct.
about a
Correct.
fertility plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now have the conversation. I just recently had a friend of mine, she's in her mid 40s now, and she's like, I wish this was a conversation that was being had when I was in my 20s.
Exactly.
She doesn't have a partner at this time.
Yeah.
And she is like, now she's actually challenged with some fibroid issues, and she's like, at first I wasn't thinking, I'm not gonna have a kid, but now that they asked me, I'm like, well, maybe I
Hmm.
still. Oh, how I wish it. She's like, Chaz, why were you not around to talk
Oh,
about this?
wow.
And I was like, child, I wish I was around.
Okay. This is what
I
I'm
wish
saying.
I was around to talk to me when I needed this voice as I was dealing with my infertility challenges.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So two things. How I want to I guess dive a little bit into is how you support people through this space. And
Mhm.
then secondly, we need to talk about your book, because
Yes.
this is the first of its kind. and I have my copy here. Okay, so I was
Let's not
about
let's
to
not
say
look,
I have
right?
my copy here as well. If you
Yes,
can see it, oh, let's see. It's called The
yes.
Secrets of Faith in Fertility. Let me straighten it
Yes.
up. Yeah, so this is
Yeah,
it
we're
here.
gonna save that for the end, because there's so
I
much to
know,
unpack with that.
I
But in
know.
terms of how I help individuals, last year when I did my book tour in the Bahamas, I had no idea what I was stepping into, or what God was about to do with this book.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I twice after the manuscript was completed, I almost didn't publish this book. I got cold feet.
Did you
One,
get imposter syndrome?
I got where I was like, what are people gonna think? I got into my head about the perceptions of what other people were gonna say
That's
when
it.
when they came to know my story.
Yeah.
Like Taz, the
You?
Christian, the Christian girl, you talking about her? What? She do that? Like all of those things. Because
And she was struggling with that? That ain't no true.
you see them churn she out? That's a lie. I know what you're talking about.
Boy.
Or then I'll tell you what somebody actually told me after I came up with the book.
Yeah.
They were like, so, well, you think you really needed to say all of that? Because what about, if people start asking you if Dwayne is the daddy? And I'm like, first of all, y'all need to take a look at my children's faces, okay? Let's start there. They can't hide from him. Okay,
What
they
was
can't hide
their
from him.
reaction?
They're real Stewarts. But aside from that, regardless of whether I use a sperm donor, because there is that option for women who may have a husband that has low sperm count, or maybe the sperm quality is not correct, or even let me rewind. Maybe I used an egg donor, right? Those are things again that people don't realize you can do, so that you can conceive with your children. Um, Mind your own womb. Can we say that again?
I'm gonna turn
Mind,
that into a sound clip.
seriously, mind your own womb. It
Yeah.
doesn't
It's really
matter.
that simple.
It
It's really
doesn't
that
matter.
simple.
It
It
doesn't
costs you
matter,
nothing actually.
right? And so, yeah, I got into my head about the perceptions, and yes, those perceptions did come
Yeah.
after the book was released.
Yeah.
But my book is one of the resources that has helped many women. In fact, last year, a Bahamian woman, the stories, and I remember when I was coming out with my book, one of the things, one of my colleagues I was sharing with told me, she's like, Taz, you got a big heart. She's like, are you ready for, what this may actually entail in terms
Coming.
of knowing the journeys that some people are struggling with?
Yeah.
But then that comes with balancing again the joy with the sorrow,
Yeah.
and being able to recognize both in this space that God has placed me in.
Yeah.
Because while I had last week, this young lady from the Bahamas who reached out to me, right? I mean, literally, she was like, I guess maybe halfway through my book, but she wanted to get this message to me about how it gave her so much hope, how
Mhm.
it was able to change the trajectory of what she was thinking about, and how she wanted to thank me for coming out with this story and coming into this space.
Wow.
But yet she's like that pain, she was able to resonate with those painful parts of my story, but yet was able to find beauty and joy in the miracles that came out at the end.
Wow.
So there's that pain, right? Working with the women who are in the trenches of trying to figure out what next to do. I help them to develop a fertility plan. I help them to see the hope. I help them to have fertility in all areas of their life while they're going through the struggle,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And then there are those who are actually on now the back end of the story. So, like yesterday, one of my moms that I am so grateful, I am so blessed to have been on the journey with her with. Um, Last year, this time, we were hopeful and excited for her to finally be pregnant, right?
Yeah.
And to conceive and all the things. And she made it to a certain point in her pregnancy that um, she went into preterm labor. The baby, after 18 days, did pass away, and it was such a dreadful experience. And that was the second part of why I held up on actually wanting to release the manuscript, because it was
Okay.
like, one, the perceptions of other, and two, here it is, God, you're telling me to let this story out, but yet there's this possibility of individuals experience this kind of pain. Like, how am I supposed to bring hope in this space?
Yes. Yes.
How am I supposed to bring hope?
Yeah.
But he told me there is a purpose for everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And this message is needed even for her.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
And I released the book. She was one of the individuals who actually had an impact on the way that I actually wrote infertility on the cover of the book.
Yes.
She spoke to the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
infertility. And we're talking about this mom now who just buried her 18-day-old baby.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
speaking to the purpose of everything that happens, on the way from the funeral, I was driving back. The funeral was in Gainesville, and I was driving back to Central Florida, Orlando area. And God told me, it's time for you to start the assignment. I was like, start the assignment. Now, there's a chapter in my book I talk about buying baby blankets. And I knew specifically what it was because it was a crazy assignment that God had sent me on as it related to buying baby blankets. And I was actually speaking to another mom in waiting who had a stillborn the year before. So on
Mm-hmm.
my drive from the funeral, I just like, he's like, give her a call, try to build some encouragement. I'm like, how am I building encouragement for, this woman when I'm coming from the funeral of the baby of another one? Like, God, what, like it was just all confusing to me what he was doing. But
Yeah.
as I was talking, he told me, give her the assignment.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And her name is Nina in the book.
Okay.
So if you get into chapter 1, you're going to see about Nina.
Yeah.
And so I said, Nina, and that's her, pseudo name. I
Yeah.
said, Nina, God's telling me to give you assignment, and here's what I need you to do. And I gave her specific steps, and these are steps I actually give to women that I actually coach as well. And she's like, this is so weird, but okay, I'm gonna do it.
Okay. Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna go. I don't know where you need me to go buy this baby blanket, but I'm gonna go buy it.
Yeah.
And she did. She got one for her. She got one for me. And it's a blanket that I would pray over. I just pray over that blanket. And can I tell you, she continued on with another cycle of fertility treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And just she would be 2 months ago, she gave birth to her beautiful miracle.
Wow.
And I was prepared to mail her back the blanket. And she said, no, no, you're going to fly here and you're going to wrap this baby in the blanket yourself.
Oh my goodness.
Because on this journey, I would not have been able to get here without you.
That's your life's
So
purpose.
this is
Wow.
how I know God has been using me in this space.
Yeah.
And he used what I considered a very painful and difficult situation with the loss of one woman's baby
Yeah.
to now help another in this space.
Ooh.
But I can tell you, both of these moms today,
Yeah.
today, today are holding their little miracles.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with Taz,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I don't put myself, in fact, every time I pray over the blanket or I have those conversations with individuals I coach, I'm like, first, let me put me aside because God is the one that's going to take over what we
Mm-hmm.
work towards.
Yeah.
He's going to take over that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just giving me the wisdom because of the experience that I've had to be able to help them.
Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful. I am so happy that you have been placed for such a time as this. Yes, we would have loved for that to happen, ages ago or years
Mhm,
ago.
mhm, mhm,
But you are here now. You are an
mhm.
infertility and pregnancy loss advocate and coach.
Yes.
I mean, a mouthful. But I love what you are doing. I love that you can be there for women. I love that you can coach them. I guess for women and their partners, right?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
they're not in it
Mhm,
alone.
mhm.
And a partner is there to support, to do
Absolutely.
exactly that. But I
Absolutely.
love that you are placed here for such a time as this. I love that God had you write this book and then had you move forward with the assignment,
Mhm,
then gave you this title. And not the titles are everything, right?
mhm.
But you have a resource. You don't even have to go looking. You don't
Right.
have to go to Mr. Google. You have your own resource. And it's
Mhm.
something tangible. And eventually, I hope that it's because me, I listen to Audible a lot.
Yes.
That's how I listen to my book. So Dr. Taz and I, she was like, "Okay, are you finished the book?" I'm like, I'm not quite finished it, but my plan for sure is to get through it because I want this to be a resource because it's such a taboo topic, and you
Mhm.
know we are in this space, and again, your assignment is different and so is mine, but I feel like it's when you know better. Dr. Maya Angelou said, "You know better, you do better," and I feel like that's
Mhm.
one of the things that if we can foster something, if we can encourage something, it's
Absolutely.
definitely incumbent upon us to do it. So,
Absolutely.
Dr. Taz, before we wrap up, I want you to let people know where they can find you,
Mhm.
just how you can be a blessing to their lives.
Absolutely. So I'll first start with my website.
Hmm.
So I do have a website and it is so simple. It's
Okay.
drtaz.com. But doctor, it's key that you spell doctor all the way out or you'll end up at another Dr. Taz. So it's
So that's
DOC.
D-O. Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
yes. DOCTORTAZZ.com.
Okay.
drtaz.com. So
Okay.
they are my website, and their individuals are also, I usually have evening hours for providing coaching sessions. So individuals can go on my website and they can schedule coaching sessions there. I actually even provide a free one. The first one is
Oh,
always
wow.
free. Yes,
That's
yes.
amazing.
But I don't want it to be a cost barrier for some individuals. Like
Right.
I want to talk to Dr. Taz, but it's like,
Yeah.
I can't pay for a coaching class. Listen, we can
Yeah.
do a lot in the free session that I have.
Yes.
Let's get started with that. Then
Yes.
also individuals can find me on social media as well. I am now on Instagram. I don't know how I got there, but there I am. I'm on Instagram and also on Facebook, and both are at the handle Dr. Taz, DOCTORTAZZ. So, and
Oh,
to follow along and to share, because while I provide hope for individuals that are struggling with infertility, there is my advocacy aspect of this to increase awareness.
yeah.
And there are so many individuals who are ignorant to what the challenges of infertility actually are with
Yeah.
individuals that are in their space. Because when we think about it, one in six, Tanya,
That's a lot.
if you just
That's
say,
a lot.
if you just say your cousin, your coworker, your church member, another family member, the lady you met at the grocery store, and let's add you to the mix.
Yeah.
One of y'all, one of y'all are struggling with infertility.
That's crazy. That is wow.
And I know
That
we
is
didn't touch on pregnancy loss, but that's another area. That's the other half of my platform because that is an area that I struggled with as well
yeah.
through the losses that I had. But with that, here in America, we're talking 1 in 4. 1 in 4 experience a pregnancy loss.
That's jarring.
And so we just need to again increase that awareness so that individuals are being mindful of the things that they are actually even saying,
There's that. There's
saying
that. Yeah.
not realizing the impact that it can have on others.
Yeah, yeah, because they're struggling and they're struggling in silence. And here you come along. Oh, let me ask her when she's gonna have a baby. Why is she taking so long?
Hold on. Let me put it like this. Or ask her, why is she taking, you have kids? You don't know kids? What? Your husband shooting blanks? And that's what an individual asked me. They asked me outright, what, your husband shooting blanks? And they thought it's so casual and cool. It was like, it just rolled right off of their tongue. And I was at that point where we were struggling with infertility. And again, this being taboo, and me being the embarrassed, quiet, you know, again, trying to be the humble Christian,
Yeah,
just sheepishly smiled it off. I was like, what you talking about?
yeah. But in
Well, to be
silence,
honest,
you're
I,
like
I was I was
you're crushed.
dying inside. I was crushed
Yeah.
inside. I was crushed inside. And it
Wow.
had nothing to do with my husband.
No. I'm just happy that you are strong, resilient. My previous guest actually struggled with
Mhm,
infertility as well, and she is the episode would have actually aired by now.
mhm.
You know, but I'm happy again that you are here. More than happy, elated that you're here for such a time as this. That you are in this space. That you're walking into your purpose, and I mean that you are walking into your purpose, but that's another conversation.
That's another conversation.
You have walked into your purpose, and are going to do wonderful, amazing things. It's already started. It's already started. That you're speaking into the lives of other women and just helping them along their journey, coaching and advocacy, etc. So I'm super happy that we've had this conversation. Again, please let people know where they can find you. I'm sure there will be a plethora of messages, um, and or emails
Yes, yes,
after this episode is aired. So I'm I'm
yes,
so happy that
yes.
you're doing this.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity. So again, individuals can find me on Facebook and Instagram at drtaz.com, or just at Dr. Taz for the handle. My website, www.drtaz.com. As it relates to my book, so for those of you who are in the Bahamas, my book is at several of your popular favorite bookstores. So individuals like, well, I'm not on Amazon. How do I get the book? I got you. I got you. All right. So you can find it at the Black Food Shop, the Black Food Culture and Bookshop at the corner of East and Robinson Road. You can also find it at the Adventist Book and Nutrition Center there on Tawny Darling Highway. It's also available at the Logos Bookstore in Harbor Bay. You can also find it. There is a very cute Christian clothing boutique there on the corner of Ross and Market Street, the House of Deborah.
Mhm.
They are such a huge advocate of my story and sharing it with the women who come into that store. Listen, there's no shortage of places you can find it in Nassau. But for my family islanders, because we know you people are watching this from the family islands too,
Yes.
um, you can download the ebook.
Yeah.
The ebook is available on Amazon.
Okay.
So, individuals who like to read it on their Kindle, they can go ahead and they can get it from there as well. They can get it from
Fantastic.
there as well. And again,
Fantastic.
through my website for speaking engagements or for facilitating workshops at your church or at your facility, please, by all means, just reach out. I am always happy to be in those spaces to help and share and increase the awareness and to provide that hope that so many don't realize that they have and can be educated on.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I am so happy that we were able to carve out some time. This has been an episode of Let's Chat About Faith in Fertility with my guest, Dr. Taz. I will see you guys on the next episode of Let's Chat with Tanya Lightborn. Take care.
Bye.